Right in Davis County, Utah, a mom with a simple idea accidentally built the third fastest growing business in the state. Allyse Jackson was just looking for a way to help keep her family afloat when they learned that her husband's company might be shutting down. She knew she was really good at making homemade freezer meals, and so she decided to post about them on her local Facebook group. That very day, she made $10,000 in sales, and Beehive Meals was born. What started as a small operation has now become an 8-figure business, helping families across Utah and several other states save time and stress over dinner. From scaling production to managing explosive growth, Allyse's journey is a masterclass in growing from the ground up. So today, I'm super excited to be sitting down with Allyse, discussing the challenges of rapid growth, the lessons she's learned along the way, and the impact that Beehive Meals has had across the state. All of this and more on this episode of UtahPreneur. Allyse, thanks so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us about your early years. Where did you grow up? Did you have any entrepreneurial mentors in your life? And did you think that you would be doing something like Beehive Meals down the line?
So, growing up, I grew up here in Utah, so Davis County and Layton. And then I grew up playing, soccer and sports and running track. And um, really, initially, when you get into, it's probably like around junior high when they're like, "What, Kate? You need to actually start thinking about what you want to truly be." I mean, they ask you in elementary school, and I wanted to be a teacher at that point, or a doctor, or
Yeah.
whatever. But um, when you start getting into like those junior high ages, it's kind of like, okay, I need to start thinking about what I'm going to do. I was going to do dental hygiene, and it was because it was going to be a good mom job.
Mm.
And it was something that, like, I could work a few days a week, be home with my kids. So that was the original plan. My dad was an entrepreneur, um, and he's a land developer here in Utah in Roosevelt. But we grew up in Davis County, so he has all this land out in Roosevelt, and he would just like drive out there, drive back, all of this. So he was I saw the side of entrepreneurship where, like, he was always at my soccer games, and he always went to tournaments, and he always did all these things, but he was also worked a lot, and there were, like, feast or famine times. I mean, him being in real estate and land development, like, the 2007, 2008 time, like, oh my gosh, like, and I would have been, like, around 7th, 8th grade
Mm.
around then, and so, I mean, I'm aware enough to see, like, what's kinda going on, and it's like, man, like, I never wanna be an entrepreneur. I never wanna own my own business. Like, that looks awful. So, um, he he's been very successful, throughout, but it's just, like, seeing the stress.
Yeah.
And I was like, "I wanna marry somebody who has a 9 to 5 job." And so when Adam and I got married, it was very much, he had a mom that was an entrepreneur who he got a lot of his entrepreneurial tendencies from. And then he had a dad who was in banking, which is very, like, more structured, the financial world. And so he kind of had both sides, and he gravitated more towards the entrepreneur side. And when we first got married, it was like, "No, like, you need to have your 9 to 5 job." So we actually had, he was in his MBA program, at the U when we got married, and, he had an entrepreneurial, instructor there that just basically told him, like, "Do something, doesn't have to be all in, like, you don't have to go quit your job, like,
Mm.
just do something on the side, and, like, if you make $5, you won. Like, you're an entrepreneur."
Yeah.
And so he started a wooden sunglass company when we were pretty early in our marriage, and he would just run Kickstarters. And the first one, it's like we did like $10,000 on, and we were like so stoked. And they were like legit just like like off of Alibaba. Nothing special. So then we like did another one the next year, but we actually like put some more thought into it and did like some cool designs and all of that. And that one ended up doing about 270,000 on the Kickstarter.
Nice.
And then we did another one the next year that did 280,000. So that was kind of like a fun inkling into being an entrepreneur where it was like more exciting and not so stressful. And so I was like, "Oh, this is fun. Like, we could do this." And it was but like we both still worked our normal jobs.
Yeah.
And then we ended up selling that business just to a partner, and decided and that was a really good test for us. We decided partners are not our thing. Um, we were a lot of the driving force behind that business, and it just didn't sit well. So we
Yeah.
ended up, separating from that, and it was a really good, I think, test before we started Beehive Meals because it was what we liked about running a business and what we didn't like. So,
Love it.
anyways.
That's great.
That's kinda how it all started.
That's great. Yeah. So take us back to, was it 2018?
So 2019
Okay.
is when I started it, but I actually always say my story started before that.
Okay.
So back in 2016, my husband and I, we were living in Provo at the time. He was working at Qualtrics, and I was 6 months pregnant with our first, and I went into complete nesting mode. Do you have kids? Okay.
A 1-year-old.
So yeah, so you're like brand new in this. And so I don't know about your wife, but when I went into nesting mode, it was like I needed to get everything ready. And so I mean all the normal things, like deep cleaning the house and all those things, but I had this mission that I was not going to cook for like the first few months after having a baby. Like I just was not going to deal with that. And so I was going to prep all these freezer meals. And I've always done it, and I just wanted to do a bigger batch. And so it took me a whole like week. It was like I did all the planning, I did all the shopping. A week later, I had like 80 freezer meals. And we were in like a little townhouse down in Provo. Luckily, we had a deep freezer in our garage. So, I filled my deep freezer full. But pretty quickly after, I was like, wow, I just way over prepared. Like, this was our first child. It was really only Adam and I eating. All of these meals served like 6+ people. So we were like eating, the same thing for multiple days on end as is. And so word spread pretty quickly. We're members of the church here in Utah, and our ward down there got word. And so I was pulled into the bishop's office, and he extended a calling in compassionate service.
Okay.
So he's like, we'll put your meals to work. So, and being in Provo, there were like babies being born every other week. There was, people getting sick or having surgeries. And what I would do is I would cook one of the meals, so bring them a warm meal, and then I would leave like 2 or 3 for them to cook at a later time, as like a lot of the help dies down after the first week or two. So that was kind of like my first glimpse into like the power of food, and that like people were so grateful when I did this. And so that was 2016, like I said. So fast forward to 2019 is when I actually started the company. So, but that's kind of a part of the founding story.
Yeah.
Just that first glimpse into things.
So 2019, you move up to Farmington, right? And tell us what happened there.
Yeah. So I had mentioned when we were in Provo, my husband was working at Qualtrics here in Utah. After Qualtrics, my husband's heart is in an entrepreneur. Like he is an entrepreneur at heart. So, his background is in digital marketing, and he accepted a job at a small business in Draper, where essentially they were a product and packaging design firm. Um, and they had like really big clients that would, pay the bills. They did a lot of product design for, and then they had a small team that was also very like entrepreneur minded. So it's like they wanted to basically create some of their own products, create a business around it and all these. So Adam was going to be the digital marketing side of that. So he was there for about 2 years. Unfortunately, the company got put in an unstable financial situation. So about 2 years into it, it was pretty clear the company was on its way under, and he wasn't going to have a job much longer. I mean, the lovely side of running a small business, right? Like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So, um, he was about to lose his job, and at that time we had 2 kids. And it was a situation where I didn't want Adam to have to rush back into the first job or whatever. Like I wanted him to find the right position for him. And so it's like, okay, what could I do that makes money? So Adam had woken up, gone to work. We had our 2 kids at home. I woke up before them. And I remember vividly like sitting in my bedroom, and I grabbed my phone and I started a new note in there. And it was like things that I'm good at that I can make money with. And I mean, my list was a lot of like those homemaker type things like crocheting and baking, and freezer meals was on that list. And so I was like, okay, like that could work. Like I could do all the shopping, and I could prep it, and I could like deliver it to people, and I'll just do it like here locally. And so within like an hour or two, I had gone to like Adobe stock photography, and like I didn't have any product to show. I was like, I have recipes, but I'm like, so I go and get like stock photography of freezer meals and made like a little picture collage, and like put it on Facebook in like a Facebook group in Farmington. And so I posted it with a menu of 10 and, explained the process. And it was immediate that like, just the response from people that it was like, "Yes," like, it was almost like, "Please take my money." And so day 1, and I didn't have a way to even take people's money. I was like, "Oh, crap, like, this is gonna work." So I was like, hurry and set up a Venmo account. I didn't have one. And I was like, "Yeah, just Venmo me the money." And, like, I set up a delivery date for a month out, and, um, day 1, I did over $10,000 in sales.
Wow.
And, mind you, Adam was at work, like, he had no idea any of this was happening. So I had called him, like, midday, and I was like, I think I just started a business. Like, this is what's happening, and we now have to figure this out because I just took people's money." So that was kind of, like, how it all got started, and obviously we figured it out. We're still here 5 years later, so
What was his reaction when you showed him the $10,000 in the Venmo account?
he was, like I said, he's the true entrepreneur. I feel like I've grown into it.
Yeah.
Um, but he was excited, and he's always been such a huge support. So his background being in digital marketing, like, and just more that digital side, he was able to get me, a website put up from, like, day 1 of deliveries, like, and he's been a lot of, like, my back end behind the scenes person, and then I've been a lot of the operations, and that's how we still run a lot of the company today. So he runs, our marketing department, all of, like, the customer experience side, all of that, and then I run all of our, production operations and distribution and all of that.
That was actually one of the questions I was thinking of on the way here because to me, it seemed like living in Utah, you guys just came out of nowhere, but you were everywhere immediately.
Yeah.
It was like every single one of my sisters and moms had a Beehive Meals bag. My wife she's a school teacher. She was getting free meals at work. The billboards, the sponsorships everywhere. So I assume that was Adam kind of
Yes.
knowing exactly what to do there.
Yeah, so what's been unique, so our business, so when I first started, like mentioned, like, this was just supposed to be like a side thing. It was Adam was supposed to figure out his thing. This wasn't supposed to be long term. So, started it September of 2019. Adam then did leave that job, in Draper in October, and we wanted him to take his time finding something new. So we wanted him to find something that he was really gonna be passionate about. So, he took his time, and then, um, it was, like, February-ish time, I brought on a couple of employees because I was like, "Okay, like, this is picking up." I really didn't do a whole lot of marketing initially. A lot of it was word of mouth. I actually started we have a subscription,
Mhm.
program, and I actually started that because I had a customer who, when I would launch a new menu initially, I just put it on Facebook in that group and just say, like, "Hey, I'm taking orders again." And I would sell out so fast. And people that would order from previous months would be really upset. They're like, "Well, you sold out before I could even, like, order."
Mm.
And, like, that's not fair. I'm like, "Well, I'm only one person. Like,
Yeah.
I can't take on more." And so they're like, "Well, if I could just, like, have you take my money every month, like, then I'll just be on your schedule." And I was like, "Okay, like, I'll take your money every month."
Yeah.
So I set up a subscription, and that's how, like, I initially grew. Like, it would just people, like, would reorder, word of mouth would spread. We didn't have to spend, like, anything on marketing. Um, and so it was really, like, the first year that we didn't really spend anything because it was only so much that I could take on. I
Mhm.
hired a couple people. Pandemic hit in March of 2020, right?
Yeah.
And then we just saw, like, exponential growth. There was a lot of unfortunately, there was a lot of fear in the world, right? And you would go to the grocery stores, and, like, grocery store shelves would be bare, and it was or they'd limit you at grocery stores of, like, what you could take. And so, we had access to wholesalers and just bulk amount of food.
Mm.
Um, Not initially, we had to grow into that, but, it was something that we were able to provide just, like, a comfort to families. So then, like, we just grew exponentially during that time.
Very cool. And that started, you said, like, right as the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yes.
That's
Yeah. So we were like 6 months, pre-pandemic when we started. I mentioned, so Adam was still looking for jobs. So in March of 2020 as well. So on March 16th, he started a job for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in their missionary department.
Mhm.
And he was there for a year and a half. And then I was like, "No, I need you full time."
So a year and a half later, he joins full time, and is that I mean, I read somewhere, I have the numbers here actually, so 10K in sales on the first day.
Yeah.
2019 was 30,000 in sales.
Yep.
So that's September to December.
Yeah, so just the
it-
last year, I did about, it was almost like $8,000 to $10,000 a month in that.
2020 was 1 million.
Yep.
And then 2022 was 8 million.
Yes.
What does that do to your brain to 8x in your really like second full year in business?
Yeah. So also in 2020, we should mention I had my third baby too.
Oh, wow.
So I got pregnant 2 months after starting the business.
Okay.
And so even of 2020, when you look at our numbers, we did $1 million in sales technically in our first full year. And the majority of that was the last like quarter of the year. So it was like I had my baby in July, end of July. And then it was like, oh, and now we're going to like sprint. So, I mean, growing really end of 2020 and all through 2021, we moved into this space that you're here at
Yeah.
with us today. And um it's such a blur, to be honest. Like, even I have team members that were here. So I have 2 directors. One is over our logistics and one is over the production side of things. They were both here during that crazy growth phase. And all of us, we talk frequently on like, I don't know how we survived. Like, it was like 16, 18-hour days, like just like trying to figure out how to keep up and constantly bringing on new people. And because we were growing so fast, like our processes were constantly breaking. We're our own manufacturer. We, up until a few months ago, we did all of our own distribution. So we had 16 vehicles, so a fleet of vans and drivers, and did all of our own routing and
Wow.
all of that. So it, a lot of it truly is like a blur. And like, I've blocked out a lot of it. We're in a much better mental situation today.
Better work-life balance in 2024. That's great. Tell me about hiring your first employee. Was that a big jump?
Yeah, so and this was just supposed to be still at that time. Because I was pregnant with our third, I was like really just more like I just need somebody to help with a little bit. Like it's too much for me to keep up with. So I hired 2 people were my first at the same time.
Okay.
Originally, I was just going to hire one of them, and then they both showed up, and I was the type of person at the time, I'm like, well, I can't say no, so I'll just hire both of you. We'll make it work. I only interviewed 2 people.
Yeah.
And they both turned out to be great.
Okay.
One of them ended up going on to running our kitchen later on here in this building. And then she had more babies of her own and, needed to be home. But she was with us for 3+ years.
Okay.
So, she was a big part of that like initial
And
growth as well.
your mindset at that time was like, I just need someone temporarily till the baby comes, then I'll take back over, and this is still just gonna be a side hustle, or did you know this had bigger potential?
I don't think we were still in the mindset because Adam went and got a job
Yeah.
at the same time. It was more just like, I think I still had the mindset. I'm like, I could do this on the side and make like a nice little like side hustle income. Like it was never going to be our full-time thing. Like
Yeah.
it was never supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it was just going to be, hire some girls, give them a little bit of, target money or whatever you want to call it, right? That it's like, they're not making, they worked like 10, 15 hours a week. It wasn't anything crazy at the time.
Yeah. And were they in your house making the meals?
No. And so that was something I had to figure out right from the beginning. So when I started it and posted on Facebook, right, I posted it, took everybody's money. And then I was like telling my family like what I did and talking to Adam's mom. So my mother-in-law, she's like, you can't do that in your house, right? And I'm like, nope, I had no idea. She's like, no, like so researching it more, it's like, yeah, you can't do raw meat. Like you could do baked goods out of your house. Like you could do cookies, cupcakes, all of that. You can't do raw meat, raw vegetables. Like that's just not allowed. So I'm like, oh, shoot, like I need to find a commercial kitchen. So we initially found a guy that did food trucks and had his own like commercial kitchen. So he would be there early in the morning, right? Prep his stuff, and then he would leave in his trucks throughout the day. So then his kitchen was empty the rest of the day.
Nice.
And so we would then just come in and make sure that all of our prep got done while they were out. And then like they got back in the afternoon, and then we would just make sure we were wrapped up and done.
And did you need a permit or anything like that?
Yeah, so I had to get, again, these things I didn't know. So when I did my initial Facebook post, it was beginning of August in 2019. Luckily, I'd given myself like a full 30 or so days. that my deliveries didn't happen until September. So
Yeah.
I had to find a kitchen. There's like food handlers permits, but I couldn't just get away with that. Like I had to get this food safety certificate that like you go through a college and take a course and then go take a proctored test. And so like I had to like sprint to get that done. And luckily it was like a do it at your own pace. So I could like
Yeah.
do it as fast as possible. So I had to get that certification to get started and yeah, like get approved by Department of Agriculture, like in the space that we were in and all these things. So there was a lot that had to happen in that 30 days leading in up to
Yeah,
starting.
that's impressive. It sounds like the whole thing has kind of been jump out of the airplane, build the parachute on the way.
Oh yeah. Yes, very much.
Again, you went from 0 to feeding thousands of Utah families, and you said it took you a while to kind of level up in mindset that maybe this could be a full-time thing or a much bigger business than you thought. When was the moment where you're like, "Wait, I should probably take this seriously?"
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. So it was about so Adam had started his new job in March of 2020, and it was probably a year into that job that it was like I first went to Adam and I was like, I need you full time. Like this is growing. Like I think that this can like be something. Um, so we would have ended the 2020 at $1 million in revenue, and going into 2021, like it was still growing. Um, so he went to go quit his job at the year mark, and
Mm.
his boss was like, "No, like we know your wife is like has her thing on the side, like just know like you're good to keep helping her with that, but we still need you here."
Okay.
So like it was almost like because there was a lot of guilt that it's like he would help me with stuff on the side, but it's like so his full focus wasn't in his job.
Yeah.
But they were like, "No, we're good with that. Like you do your thing. Like we still need you here." Um, so we made it another 6 months, and then it was like, "No, like, I need your help. I can't do this." Like, and so it was really, I think, when Adam made the full jump in that it's like, "Okay, like this is like what we're doing." Um, and like I said, we at that point started bringing more and more like manager type roles in. And so it's like when we started becoming like the basically like financially responsible for all of these like
Yeah.
full-time employees, it's gotten really real. And now it's like, oh, sometimes I still feel like we're playing business a little bit. Um, but I mean, we're a legitimate business, so we provide for a lot of people.
It can be like that though.
Yeah.
It's just like you get this big decision that comes across your desk and you're like, I literally have no idea. Let's just try this.
Mhm.
Does that happen often too?
Yeah, I feel like that's how we've been able to grow and be successful in this is we've been able to pivot really quickly in a lot of
Hmm.
our just with the growth.
Yeah.
Like we've had to change and have to try things that not all of them have worked, and then being able to recognize that okay, that was a really bad idea. Like let's like go back to the drawing board.
Hmm.
And being able to admit that like not every idea we have is great. I think has allowed us to be able to keep up with things.
What's the most expensive mistake you've made?
Oh man. Have you listened to any of my other podcast interviews?
Not,
Do you know it?
no, I don't.
So we have our location here in Utah. And I'm trying to think. This probably would have been like 3 years ago. So I mean, in the midst of like growing and all of that, we were trying to figure out. I mean, you talk about like making decisions, and making bad ones. We were trying to figure out how we wanted to grow.
Yeah.
So we were handling all of our own delivery logistics. And so it's like, okay, how do we get outside of Utah? And it's like, okay, we probably need to put another facility in another state. So we were trying to think like, okay, what would be another like demographic? And we picked Arizona. So Arizona, we're like, there's a lot of like we do really well with the LDS population.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's pockets of LDS out there and all of
Mm.
that. So like, let's put a facility there the facility's in Tempe. So it's like kind of by Phoenix. And then you've got like Mesa, Gilbert,
Yeah.
Chandler, like all there together. We're like, that would be a good area. There's like a population of 8 million people, like versus Utah's like 3 million. So it'll be great.
Nice.
So we went and got a 15,000 square foot building. So bigger than what we had here
Wow.
equipment wise. Like we have like if you see our facility, it's very like hodgepodge put together. Like we get the next space over, we throw some more freezers in it. So we were going to plan this facility out much better. So we got like massive, massive walk-ins, um, all the nicest equipment down there, and spent about $2 million on that facility. Well, it took 18 months to get up and going. And then we really only operated for about 6 months.
Wow.
And then we shut it down. And we're like, that was the worst decision ever. And so we pulled everything back and done everything out of Utah, and we're just much more efficient.
You're currently expanding to other states though, right?
Yes.
So what's the new strategy that's not going to cost $500,000?
So I mentioned that we were handling all of our own delivery logistics.
Yeah.
So September of this year, we switched all of that to a shipping model. So we figured after our experience with Arizona, and we still served Arizona. So we kept our facility and we just kept some delivery vans there. And we decided it was much more efficient for us to produce the meals here and to freight them down there than to actually like operate fully out of there. So that, has still been how we were like continuing to grow. We served 5 states. Utah, from here, we were able to do Nevada and Idaho. And then we had another kind of like holding facility in Colorado eventually. We've decided we were actually looking at just different bag sizes you had mentioned your wife received meals, right? She's a school teacher. So we donate a lot of meals. And when we donate meals, we typically do it in sets of 5. It just allows us to be able to reach more people than doing the full set of 10. So we were trying to find a smaller bag so that when we do these donations, it is a full, like it looks full rather than like our full bags that only are like half full. So we were trying to do that. And when we got these smaller bags, I was showing them, they're cuter, they're smaller. And I was like showing them off to, my production team. And my director of operations said, "Oh, those are so cute. Those will be so great for shipping." And I was like, "What did you just say?" She's like, "Oh, I meant delivery." And I was like, "No, you just said shipping though." And I was like, "If we get like smaller packaging, like we could probably ship this." And she's like, "No, like I didn't mean that, because my team knows if I like start going off on like a tangent, and then it's like it probably means that like things are changing."
Yeah.
And so that was in May of this year. And then so since from May to September, we went like all in on like figuring out how to get our current product in more condensed packaging. So still same amount of product, just like how do we get it more condensed so that like we can have smaller packaging that then can ship easier and all of these things. So from May to September, we did that. September, we launched shipping. And that now allows us to be in 12 states. So anywhere that we can get through UPS and FedEx within 48 hours, because we use dry ice, we can now reach. So that opened up like California, like Oregon, Washington, states like that.
Very cool. And which of those states has been the biggest hit so far? Have you noticed trends there?
Yeah, so California, and I mean, it's just a sheer monster, right?
Yeah.
So many people there. So California is leading the pack as far as like the new states. I'm trying to think. Washington is right behind it.
Nice.
So that's been a good one. And then like Oregon's been performing fairly well. And then all the other ones like Wyoming, New Mexico, they're kind of like trickling, like all combined, then the rest are like
Okay.
hitting some of those other ones.
Got it. And the marketing rollout for those new states, has it just been like, hey, we're going to take everything that is working in Utah and just replicate it there? Or have you noticed that you have to tweak the messaging?
So and that was actually something we recognized with Arizona. So that our message here didn't quite translate in Arizona. And when we went to Arizona, why we struggled so much was we killed it in like the Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert area.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, because that's the Mormon population.
Yeah.
So we know we do well there. And we like could not get our message across in some of the like the other areas there. So we haven't changed our messaging a ton. If anything, we haven't even actually put a ton of marketing spend behind it because we don't want to get too much too fast.
Yeah.
So we are kind of slowly, like, while we've opened up to 12 states, we're still growing into it.
Yeah.
And we're still beating numbers. Like, we've had our best month ever in August, and then we hit it again in September, and then we hit it again in October. And then, so it's like, we are just trying to keep up at this point.
Yeah. All right. So talk to me about your team now. How many people do you have packaging meals? How many people do you have on leadership? How does that affect your day to day? And talk to me about hiring yourself out of roles and
Yeah.
any advice you have there.
Yeah. So we have, I think last I checked, it was like 110 to 120 employees. So how that breaks down is probably 60 to 70% of that is like the operations side of the company. So we have our production staff that's probably in the like 45 to 50 employees. And then we have our distribution staff, and that's probably around 20-ish employees. And then, and those are all going to be like our hourly team members. And then we have leadership as far as I have, on the production side, I have a director, and then underneath her, so her departments are production and then like the raw ingredient buying. She's over like the facility maintenance, so she's got a team that does that, all of that. So, and then each of those managers underneath her have their assistant managers, and then likewise on the distribution side, I have another director over there that manages, all the inventory, like the individual inventory mills, and then we have the bagged inventory mills, and then we have the distribution, and so there's managers that handle all of that. But I think essentially as we've grown, um, I've found for my own sanity, I need like layers that it will not trickle up to me, essentially. Like, they have their managers that then their managers have supervisors or assistant managers, right? That then they have their teams. And so if somebody takes a maternity leave or vacation, like, it never trickles up to me.
Yeah.
So I have
Some
like
redundancy.
3 or 4, yeah, so there's redundancy in there and all of that. Um, and then my husband, his side, he's got a couple directors, and then we have an in-house marketing team.
Very cool.
So,
What's the biggest misconception about running a business like Beehive Meals? Like, what makes you laugh when people say, some assumption they make about the business or
um, I think one of the biggest ones is just people don't. I get always like, "Oh, that's a cute little business." It's like, it is a cute little business, thank you. But just not, I guess, realizing the magnitude of like what we do, and not that like I need people to know like
yeah,
what's, going on. Like, it's just funny when say people in our neighborhood or friends that it's like, "Oh, you have, like, I saw your billboards, like, or I saw you're sponsoring, BYU or the University of Utah." And it's like, uh-huh. We stay very like inconspicuous, and I think a lot of the growth that we've experienced, we're actually very strategic about that. That, like, not making a ton of noise in the early phases as we were growing so quickly, because we've been knocked off before,
yeah,
like, and multiple times, and none of them have been able to actually, like, get traction or, have made it. And so, I think, like, a little bit flying under the radar for us was to just not be noticed by somebody maybe bigger
Hmm.
that, like, could maybe actually truly be successful
yeah,
in doing something like we do. Now we're at the point where I'm not super concerned
yeah.
about it, but I think, like, a lot of it in the initial phase was actually by design. So
I
it
see.
was always Allyse's cute little business.
God. So you had like 2 years to get all those processes like really dialed in, and then you turned on marketing to a bigger degree.
Mhm.
Would you recommend that for most business owners?
Well, and I guess it's gonna totally depend on the business, right? I mean, we've been in a unique situation where, because our product is something like we get the money beforehand and then we make the product, we've been able to cash flow the entire business.
Yeah,
So, I mean, even like our $2 million investment in Arizona, like, we paid all of that. It was never like it put us in, like, we didn't go into debt.
yeah,
Like, we had the money. So we've always made decisions based off of not putting us in a tight situation. Um, And it's not that we had all this money to put. I put zero money into the company. Like it has truly funded itself. So like I don't like recommend to go get, loads of debt, right, to get started. Um so as far as like paying for marketing and all of that, I think it's just gonna depend on, like, we didn't need to
Yeah.
because of how word spread about us. Like
Yeah.
just the customer experience and all that was so important to us. And then they come back month after month and they refer their friend. And I know you had mentioned like, all your sisters and your love, and you're like, you guys all have a Beehive Meals bag. Like it's marketing.
Yeah.
Like I guess that's a form of marketing for
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those bags are everywhere. Talk to me about balancing being a mom and being a CEO. And I'm sure there's lots of female entrepreneurs that would love to hear your take on this with such meteoric growth and,
Yeah.
the 16, 18-hour days
Yeah.
and kind of pulling back. What advice do you have there and how did it go for you?
Yeah. So so to give reference, so I now have 4 kids. I just had our 4th. He's about 6 months old now.
Oh, congrats.
Thanks. So and I think and you use the word balance, which is so hard because there's never been balance, right? So it's like being intentionally unbalanced at times.
Hmm.
Um and knowing that like and you have to be okay with it. So as we grew so exponentially, I had my 3rd. Um We have been very grateful to have we have nannies. So I have one that helps 2 days a week and another that helps 3 days a week.
Mhm.
So I found that for us personally, what's worked best is, um, finding people that your kids truly love to be around, and then not having them be with them every single day. So, like, our one nanny that does 2 days a week, I swear she's like Mary Poppins. She has more energy than my children do, and my children have a lot of energy, but I don't want her to work more than 2 days a week, right? Because she can be Mary Poppins twice a week and, like, give everything to my kids, and then I don't feel guilty because they are with somebody great.
Yeah.
So, I have found that that works best for us. So obviously, the childcare side of things, having people that I know are gonna engage with them. On the other side, this has happened more recently, but I have really just come to terms with there are things as a mom that need to happen in our household, like laundry, cleaning, things like that. They do not need to be done by me.
Mm,
And so I have house cleaners that come, and it's even excessive. They come every single week, but
nice.
it's like it's excessive. I
Yeah.
know, but I have to have a clean house to function.
Totally worth it. Yeah.
And then on top of that, I have another neighbor that I threw it out there in like a neighborhood chat, and I was like, "Does anybody want to help me with laundry?" I cannot, like, I can keep up with it. I can do all of these things.
Yeah.
It's my sanity and my time with my kids.
Yeah.
So it's like I now have somebody, she just comes. She lives, like, really close, so she just walks over, she, like, helps me with laundry, like, she helps with she's helping me wrap Christmas presents.
Amazing.
Like, so I'm not gonna have to deal with any of that. So, like, I have had to hire out the majority of, like, the mom things that don't add value to actually being a mom.
Yeah. And that allows you to show up as the best mom you can be in the moments that only you can do, right?
Yeah, so it's like when I come home and my kids are like, "Can we play Nintendo together?" And it's like, "Yes, because I don't need to do laundry and I don't need to do this and I don't like, yes, like
Yeah.
we can do that because that's what means something to them. Them having clean clothes is a necessity.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be done by me."
Yeah. What do you find most enjoyable about running a business? You're sort of an accidental entrepreneur,
Yeah.
but you seem to love it. Are there parts that you don't like? Are there parts you love?
Um, so yes, and I mean, as an entrepreneur, especially when you start, you have to do everything. So you will have to do things that you don't love. And then as we've grown, I have hired out the things that I don't love. So I found my strengths with running this business, and I truly do love showing up to work every single day. Like, honestly, I have a good enough leadership team that I don't need to come in.
Mhm.
I really don't. But I do because I enjoy being here. So I have hired out pretty much anything that has to do with the day-to-day at this point. Um, Managing a lot of the people. It's not that I don't like people. That's just I think where a lot of like the heartache could come from.
Yeah.
And when I'm trying to make big decisions for the company, it's really hard when it's, like, just dealing with, like, the little day-to-day things.
Mm.
So I've hired, I actually my 2 directors are very opposite of me,
Mm.
and they are more people-centric. Like, they're good with their people. Again, not that I'm not good with people.
Mm.
I'm really good with, like, processes and systems, and so I'm able to focus a lot of my time on that, and that's where I really thrive. Um, so then we complement each other really, really well.
Very cool. The other journey that I'm really interested in hearing about is like you going out to, I assume, like Harmon's and buying groceries, cooking in this, part-time kitchen,
Yeah.
to now, I assume, having very good relationships with lots of suppliers, way more bulk. How have your margins, like, have they gotten better and better over time as you've been able to buy bigger and bigger? And how did that, you mentioned you're really good with processes and systems. What was there a big leap where everything just kind of worked out, or has it been a slow process of getting that better and better?
Yeah, so when we first started, it was very much like Sam's Club, right? Was my source of, like, where I go. And, it was really the pandemic that changed that just with, like, grocery stores and all of, like, the rules and or, like, the unavailability there was with product. So, we switched to going through wholesalers at that time, and, as we've grown, we found that, like, when we stuck with one wholesaler, our prices would slowly start increasing on our products. Um, and I was doing a deep dive into kind of our pricing at one point. It was like, "Oh, man, like, some of these things have doubled over the last few months." And it's like, we are not sustainable doing that. And so, like, I go to our rep and it's like, kinda call him out a little bit. And it's like, "Oh, sorry, like, that didn't wasn't supposed to happen." And it's like, "Okay, well, it did." So then we'd go find a different wholesaler, and, I mean, long story short, we have, like, 5 to 6 now.
Hmm.
So we have 5 to 6 sources of food that we go through, and we bid them every single month. It keeps them honest, and it keeps us able to get, like, the highest quality ingredients in our product, because one supplier might not offer, XYZ like, ingredient from this brand that we really like, so I have to go through a different supplier anyways. And so, like, our chicken is, like, kind of out and around all of our other suppliers because we really want this one specific chicken that I don't know why our other suppliers don't offer it, but we want this one chicken because it's way better than the other. Or we just got in a contract with a new beef supplier, and it is such good quality. And it's like that is the one ingredient that we get from them. And it's a local supplier here in
Nice.
Utah. So they're out of Nephi. And their product is so good. So we're starting even as we've grown. I think this has actually been a conversation with my leadership team recently that a lot of building Beehive Meals has been an accident and a happy accident, but um, knowing where we are today and kind of like being really excited for where we're going as a company, we're actually implementing a lot of new things here in 2025 coming up. Just really getting into like diving deeper into the sourcing of our products. So it's like I said, we just got a new beef supplier. I'm really, really excited about one. It's supporting local. And we're going to continue to start doing that, like ingredient by ingredient, like really diving into that side of things.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm really excited.
Very
Like
cool.
there's going to be a lot of evolution in 2025 with that.
Yeah. The value proposition there is not only like fastest, most convenient, etc., but it's also the healthiest for your family.
Yeah.
You're further protecting yourself from anybody
Yeah.
being able to disrupt Beehive Meals.
Yeah.
Very cool. Um, so this podcast is specifically for Utah entrepreneurs. What advice do you have for growing a business in Utah as one of the, I mean, I see behind you, top 10, number 3, Fast 50 in 2024?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think our success in Utah has come from really being engaged in the community. So, I mean, all of our success is attributed to the fact that we built this company in Utah. I mean, I mentioned Arizona. Like, how do we start in Arizona? Like, we probably would have died as a company. And so just one, I feel like we've received so much community support. And so it's been really important for us as a company to give back to the community. So I mean, I love that you said that your wife is a teacher and she received meals. Teachers are a really big kind of like pillar of who we focus on. They give so much to the community
Yeah.
in educating the future generation. So we give a lot to schools. We give a lot to Utah Foster Care. We were recognized as one of their I can't remember. I'm like a big sponsor
Yeah.
essentially, or like so that was a cool recognition that we got this year. We've worked a lot with the governor's wife, Abby Cox.
Mm.
Her couple of her initiatives are teachers in Utah foster care as well. And so we were doing those things already, and hearing that she was doing those things, it was kind of like, oh well, like we should do those things together. So we kind
Nice.
of, partnered with her on some things. And so I think that's been really important in our story and our growth is like we've just felt so much support just by people buying our product here and sharing about our product that I really think it is this like cycle that it's like, we've grown, had community support that like we want to support the community.
Mm.
And like it's just been this like snowball effect. And I think that's attributes to our success.
Yeah, it's like a healthy, like your blood system in your body is
Mm.
constantly going back and forth, and it can't exist without giving and receiving.
Yeah.
I think a big thing that evolves along with an entrepreneur is their identity. And again, this was accidental, but it's grown into this massive business. How has your identity or perception of yourself evolved along with that?
Oh, that's a loaded question. That's a good one. Um, so it's evolved a lot. So when I first started, um, and I'm sure you've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs like the imposter syndrome, right? And like as we grew so rapidly as a business, I got in this like almost spiral that it's like I should not be the one, like I should be not like getting this success. Like I actually don't have a degree. Like I was a mom before this. Like I have no business running this business. And I got in a situation where I ended up bringing on a COO who had all of, the pedigree, right? That
Yeah,
he should
the
be the one,
credentials.
yeah, to run this. And underneath that, like it was not a good situation. Like him and I clashed so much. And it's not that I can't work with people. I work with a lot of people every single day.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a good fit. And so uh we ended that relationship and I was still in this like, oh my gosh, like I should not be the one doing this. And it wasn't until I ended up actually getting a business coach. And she actually specializes not only in like business but identity. So I specifically actually went and got an identity coach. And she helped me work through just a lot of separating like, I am not Beehive Meals.
Mm.
Like, I am the CEO of Beehive Meals, and I'm a mom, and I am this and this and this, and, like, so giving me back my own identity that isn't directly tied to Beehive Meals, because I might not own Beehive Meals for forever.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, my only advice would be, like, if you are struggling with that, like, there are actually people coaches that I have gone through, and she is amazing, and I actually still work with her on a monthly basis.
Amazing.
So I check in with her once a month.
Nice. And has that imposter syndrome just kind of slowly faded away as you've had that coaching, or are there still moments of that every day?
Yeah, so I am in a really good spot as far as, like, I can own what I built, and I can be very, um, I guess, able to recognize my strengths and how we've gotten here, and then it's allowed me to be able to actually bring in additional people that it's like, okay, my issue with the first time was I hired somebody to take over my strengths,
Mm.
essentially, and not owning what my strengths were.
Yeah.
So now as I bring people in, it's not to um, do the things that I'm good at. It's to do things that complement what I'm good at. So that's really, I think, been like the biggest difference as because I still bring in other people to help me run the business.
Yeah.
It's just identifying strengths.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it's ironic, especially in this case, how little the degree or the pedigree or the credentials would help someone to run this business.
Yeah.
Like, you're the best person to run this. You're great at making the meals, and you know the exact demographic and how they understand and think
Yeah.
about this problem. And so bringing in it's just laughable to think about the Harvard MBA coming in to like grow Beehive Meals.
Yeah.
They can't do
Yeah.
half as well as you could just because of how much experience you have just by nature of being a mom.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on. Amazing stuff we learned today. If anybody wants to check out Beehive Meals, then just go to beehivemeals.com.
Yes. And then Instagram is just Beehive Meals.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of UtahPreneur. Before you leave, I promise to make this quick. 3 things. Number 1, if you like this episode, the biggest thing you can do to help us is share with a friend, leave a review, or subscribe, or all 3 if you're feeling generous. Number 2, follow us on social media, wherever you get your TikToks or Reels or whatever it is. Look us up, UtahPreneur Pod or UtahPreneur. Links will always be in the show notes as well. And lastly, do not miss last week's episode with Ken Sanders of Ken Sanders Rare Books. His story of building an iconic rare bookshop downtown and owning one of the longest standing independently owned businesses in Utah is one you're not going to want to miss. We'll see you there.